Good afternoon to you. Mark Sett with HurricaneTrack.com here. It is August 20th, 2021, and we have to talk about a very serious threat here to the Northeast and New England. A significant hurricane threat looming here with Henri. I don't think people totally grasp the concept as to what is coming. It is something that we have not ever seen before, and I know you're thinking, well, they've had hurricanes up there. What are you talking about? I'll show you. All right, let's get on with it. A bold headline, because this time we need it. Got to get the attention of millions of people up there that are not used to this. They're used to seeing snow and blizzards and big nor'easters, but a hurricane threat like this is happening as it is, has never happened before, and so we have a lot to talk about. Let's start it off with a look at where we are. This is very important. August 20th is the beginning to the climatological ramping up of activity. After today, there is a marked increase in climatological favorability of the Atlantic Basin. And so from here on out, through probably the end of October this year, this time frame through here is going to be very busy, and even more so this year because of factors that we have talked about for several months now. All of that starting to come to pass here, and I do believe we are just getting started. So we have to face it, we have to deal with it, and try to use the science and technology that we have at our fingertips, quite literally, to our advantage to make important and informed decisions. So Henri is not the only system. Obviously, we don't want to ignore Grace. Now back to hurricane intensity headed towards a landfall in Mexico. We do have Henri out here, of course, that is going to be a growing story. And then an area of potential development, low chance at that, way out in the deep tropics. This part of the Atlantic is not going to be very busy for a while. I think most of the tropical wave activity is going to come off and make its way west and bloom over here in the coming days and weeks. And that's not good, because that's where pretty much all of us live. So the longer they take to develop, the more chance they have at impacting land. And we are already seeing that so far this season. So the broad satellite picture here, courtesy of TropicalTidbits.com. There's Grace down in the southwest Gulf of Mexico, Bay of Campeche area, starting to really get to its act together more. Probably going to ramp up close to maybe 100 miles per hour before making landfall. And then it's going to run into these mountains down here and die a quick death. But that means it's going to rain itself out over some rugged terrain, and there's going to be some big-time mudslides, at least the potential for that, with that heavy rainfall down there. Here is Henri still getting sheared by northerly winds here. You can tell the outflow and everything still has that sort of bowed look to it. It's not completely fanning out, but it is getting more established. We're starting to see it change just ever so slightly, meaning that conditions are gradually becoming more favorable. This is over very warm water. Water temperatures are warmer than average in there. And this is well on its way to becoming the third hurricane of the season. Kind of rare to have three hurricanes this early. It doesn't happen that often. And then this is the disturbance out in the eastern tropical Atlantic. A lot of dry, stable air up in here, so really nothing else coming anytime soon. But I would be watching this area through here in about a week to 10 days for more possible development, and we'll worry about that as it comes. But we got a lot ahead of us, that's for sure. So a close-up here of Grace, Hurricane Grace, lots of lightning with it earlier, and it kind of fades away. It's interesting how that works once the sun comes up, just different processes that are involved that create that. We won't go into that today, but it's definitely ramping up. Deep, central, dense overcast, the sort of the thickness of it, the overall convective activity, nice and circular, and it's well on its way to strengthening as it makes landfall in Mexico. I'll show you where it's going to go in just a moment on our interactive tracking map. Kind of some good news with that. It's going to go into a relatively low population area, and that's always a good thing. Close-up satellite of Henri. Couple of things to point out. First of all, lots of lightning near it, and then look at the last couple of frames right there. See that explosion of convection? Bam! Almost looks like a nuclear bomb went off. That mushroom cloud effect, that is a very, very strong signature that the upper level winds are starting to become more favorable for this to strengthen. It's still battling some shear, absolutely, but we're starting to see the signs, all the lightning that's in there, and We're developing sort of this tail, more banding on the south and west side. Only a matter of time. This will become a hurricane. For reference, this is Cape Fear, Wilmington, North Carolina area. Myrtle Beach is over here. Charleston, South Carolina down here. Savannah, Georgia over here. Jacksonville, Florida tucked in here. Why am I mentioning those areas? Because this is and will continue to generate swells. That'll come out. And the surfers are going to like this, absolutely. But novice to inexperienced swimmers, first of all, what is today? Today is Friday. I know school's back, so forth and so on for most people, but people are still going to go down to the beach tomorrow, Sunday. You say, well, the storm/hurricane Henri, not going to affect me if I go to Florida's beaches or Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina, or the Outer Banks of North Carolina. Wrong. There are going to be rip currents there, and those rip currents are deadly. We don't just say this. I don't just say this. The news people, we don't say it for the sake of saying it. I don't get paid by the word, all right? Which is too bad because sometimes they go pretty lengthy. But there is a reason behind that. Explaining this to you that you understand the whole picture here. Those swells, while the waves are going to be exciting, my kids love it. You know, I did as a younger person. But you get wise. You understand that has a lot of energy, those swells, and they can create rip currents. Just the breaking wave action itself can cause neck and back injuries, all right? And so please take that seriously. Isn't this kind of neat? Look at that. It looks like a sparkler or a comet or a meteor. I just noticed that. The weather is freaking awesome sometimes if it just didn't knock our stuff down and kill us, right? I mean, seriously, that is one of the coolest things I've ever seen in a satellite image. Wow, I'm glad I saw that. That's really neat. Kind of made my day there. Very interesting, isn't it? All right, so real quick on the tracking chart before I get too distracted by shiny, sparkly things, quite literally. Zooming in here to Grace real quick. Want to underscore, people do live down here, yes, but it's not coming into a major populated area. Like Veracruz, much more populated, and we can zoom in further. You know, there are some towns and whatnot in here, certainly, right along this coastal highway, but depending on where this goes in, this is the side of the track that would have the worst effects. The onshore flow would be over here. This is going to be offshore flow over here. So right along the coast, not too many people live there. Again, there are people. Yes, there's little villages down here. All these little blue things, I love this interactive map. This is why. These are your river systems, your estuarine and your overall catchment basins. The geography of the landscape suggests that as this comes in, a lot of heavy rain up here, and that'll create some flooding problems for sure. But the one, at least good thing here is it's not hitting a major population center, and it's not hopefully going to be too intense at that. But honestly, the rain in this situation is my biggest fear with Grace. Concern, fear, kind of the same thing sometimes. As for Henri, very interesting and different kind of a track than we have seen in a long time. Moving up here, like, it's going to head on out to sea, and it looked like it could do that a couple of days ago, but things have changed. More data from the weather balloons being launched across the eastern U.S., the Gulfstream 4 jet flying all around out here, sampling the environment ahead of Henri, has solidified this track more so that we are fairly confident, all of us that track this and predict it and watch it, that it's going to make landfall potentially as a hurricane, and they technically have it as a tropical storm, but we're going to talk about that in a minute, okay? Like, people say, it's just a tropical storm coming in there. What's the big deal? Well, I'm going to try to convince you of what the big deal will be. A couple of things to note. First, look at the distance between these points here and the distance between these points here. I mean, it doesn't take a genius. These are shorter, from here to here. This time period in here, it's going to slow down. Why? It's going to get blocked a little bit by high pressure over southeast Canada. That's going to kind of build into this region right up here. That'll slow it down. This moves out of the way. Some more energy comes in, a little upper level trough, and that'll help it to resume its track eventually into Atlantic Canada. But this area right through here, where it comes in and almost, it's going to be moving like less than 10 miles per hour, that's going to start happening before it makes landfall, and then up to this point up here. So this window here, 12 to 18 hours, is going to be moving very slow. And that is a big deal because even 60, 70 mile an hour wind constantly coming onshore in here is going to do what? It's going to pile up the water, and it's going to be nasty. And the surge values up in here, 3 to 5 feet, is what the Hurricane Center is showing now. I firmly believe that will go up and be higher. I don't know what it'll be, but I think it'll be higher. So you're going to have the constant onshore flow well ahead of this system. And then a bulk of the rain is actually going to be on the west side. It's hard to explain why, but trust me, it will. And you're going to have strong winds on the west side. They'll be offshore over here. But you're going to have power outages in the millions, potentially. This is a densely populated area of the country. You know that if you live there. And so this is going to cause a lot of problems over a pretty large area. It is going to interact with this trough energy that's going to come through and eventually turn it. And that will inject what we call some baroclinic energy and wring out some more moisture, make the wind field expand. And this is going to be a lot bigger problem than people up there, I think, have any clue about. I'm serious. And I could be wrong. I don't have a book, 50 years of hurricane history, like Biff Tannen and what was it, Back to the Future Part 2. And I'm being serious here. I don't know for sure. But my experience doing this for more than 2 decades and just reading the discussions, this is going to be much worse for people than they are probably thinking. They see that S on there, storm. My map, the Hurricane Center's map, whatever app you're using, just a tropical storm. It's like a nor'easter, man. We get nor'easters with 80 mile an hour winds. Right, but those nor'easters, they can park offshore sometimes. This is different. This is going to be coming up from warmer than normal Atlantic waters. The wind field's going to expand. You've had a lot of heavy rain there already. So this antecedent moisture is already in the ground. Ante, A-N-T-E, meaning before. And so the groundwork, literally pun intended, is laid for a lot of trees to come down. And the power outages are going to be numerous. You need to be ready for that. People that are dealing with, respiratory issues, you got oxygen dependency, whatever, dialysis, anything where you need electricity for your life to be saved, you got to be thinking about evacuating to somewhere where you can be safe today. Don't wait and see. Well, let me wait and see what happens. Let me see if it's going to be a hurricane. That's a mistake. All right. If you're down along the water, you got to start getting your small craft, your boats, whatever, ready. It's the middle of summer still. It's not winter. A lot of boats down there, and I bet it's real busy up there this year because of all the stuff related to the pandemic and people getting out more than they did last year. Trust me, you want to take this seriously, no doubt about it. Looking at this tweet from Brian McNulty, very smart guy down at Florida, University of Miami, and what does he say? Well, a couple things here. If Henri passes within 100 miles of Nantucket as a hurricane, it would be the first to do so since Arthur in 2014, and much more notably Bob 30 years ago, 1991. Nice map showing the different hurricanes that have passed within 100 miles of Nantucket, just as an example. And if you remember any of these, you can go look all these up on Wikipedia. How many of these were moving at 5 to 10 miles per hour? I'm pretty sure that it's very close to zero. Most of them move through at 20 to 25, 30 miles per hour. Why? Real quick back to the track map. Because they come around the Big Bermuda High over here. There's a trough digging in, and they usually come screaming up the coast at a pretty good clip. This one is not going to do that. So this is different inherently. So you need to take that into consideration as well. We haven't dealt with something like this that I know of to this magnitude. Real quick, the sea surface temperatures, 26 degrees Celsius is the magic number. That gives us the energy, the latent heat for hurricanes to do their thing. That's the line right there. As Henri comes up, let's change the track color to black here. As it comes up and it makes landfall, potentially something like that, just as an example, I'll draw on top of it a little wider swath just to help. Let's say it does something similar to this. In the end game, it'll only be leaving that 26 Celsius isotherm. Isotherm means line of equal temperature. That's 25, 24, 23. It's not like it's going into the Gulf of Maine where water temperatures are 16, 15 Celsius. and it'll be slowing down, and that'll help it weaken. But let me be very clear. When we say weaken, that's the pressure coming up. It's called filling, weakening, and the wind's coming down near any core that it has. But when it does so, it'll spread that energy out. You're going to have a bigger wind field, and it's going to push a big surge up there. Believe me, this is not going to be pretty when it's all said and done. And in terms of the water temperatures and where they are relative to average, that's the next graphic here. Definitely warmer than the long-term average by a good deal, maybe even a couple of degrees Celsius. So there's the Gulf Stream. It's running warmer than average right up to the coast. No cold water anomalies to bail you out. Henri has your number for southeast New England, the eastern parts of the Northeast, Long Island, etc. This is it, all right? And you know, all we can hope for is that it doesn't achieve the potential that it could. With all this warm water, though, I would bet safely, on the safe side, that this becomes a really big problem. You know, maybe a 100-mile-per-hour hurricane. We'll see. Looking at the modeling real quick, GFS, this is, we use blue. Here's Grace down here. Here's Henri. We're going to have different map extents that I'll show you as we go through this. Grace moves inland, really getting strong there before it does so, dies over the mountains. And then there's Henri going up the east coast there, as you can see. So let's switch the map extents over to, if it'll let me, come on, cooperate. Different overall look. This is the mean sea level pressure and the 6-hour average precipitation rate. This is neat because it kind of shows you that weird look to it, the convective pattern being sheared, but it also shows you the air pressure. So let's just move this out into time. As Henri comes up, it starts to strengthen, but it still has that sheared look to it. But by tomorrow morning, it starts to get better organized east of Cape Hatteras, moving right along the east coast there, and strengthening 977, 973, and then it makes landfall. We can zoom in even further here, coming up towards the northeast coast. There it is, and we get a higher resolution here, 975, 972, 978. You know, and you say, well, that's not that strong, but look at all those isobars in there. Every one of those little circles, those are lines of equal pressure. That is a tight gradient of wind, very strong wind in a large area, and, you know, that's most of Long Island, the eastern part of it, a good deal of southern New England. That's a big problem. And then all the heavy rainfall as it comes in there, that's what I was saying. Look at the rain on the western side. And I remember, this is why I go after some of these systems that you say, it's just a tropical storm, man. Why are you out there? Fred had that same look on the west side. And look what happened. Lots of flooding in Lynn Haven and points north from there near Panama City. Experience makes a difference. I see that and I go, oh, you got to be kidding me. The flooding, the wind on top of that. Look at those colors in there. In fact, I'm going to single this image out, zoom in on it, and show you what I'm talking about. This is going to be helpful. Open it up in a new tab. There we go. So, two things that I see. Very heavy rain rates in here. Still has the air pressure, 987 of a hurricane if you're keeping score. But the biggest thing is these isobars. They are packed tightly together. So you've got the heavy rain right here, the wind, the power outages on the west side are going to be substantial. And those strong north and northwest winds coming out of Connecticut on the north part of Long Island, places like Baiting Hollow. Somebody I know lives there. Heads up, buddy. You know, this could be a big, big problem. The power outages, the rainfall, the flooding. Take this very, very seriously. I mean, I'm urging you. You have to, or you're going to pay. I mean, it's going to be awful if you don't. It kind of lurches northwest and then, like, really? More west over western Massachusetts? Are you kidding me? And then finally the energy gets it, it dissipates, and off it goes. But that last little bit there, if it's stronger wind-wise and pressure-wise, this will just all be worse. Already looking at a nasty situation, it could get nastier from there. All right, I'm going to cover this in a very unique way, and if you already know about this, you can go ahead and tune out, but a lot of people up there don't know what we do, what I do. The live coverage in the field through HurricaneTrack.com, I'll pull that website up for you real quick as well. I should have done that. Hold on, let me make me go away. The live coverage that I provide through our crowd-funded Patreon system through HurricaneTrack, been doing this since 2005. We tie it all in through this right here, Patreon. What is Patreon? It is an app. You can have it on your smartphone, your tablet, whatever. Not our app, it's called Patreon. It was generated and created by Jack Conte, who came up with this way to let creators like me, filmmakers, musicians, poets, bloggers, whatever, to crowdfund their work. Let the fans, the supporters, YouTubers support these people and not have to rely on sponsors or contracts with big companies or whatever the case may be. It's all up to you. So over the last few years, our Patreon has really grown. What do we do with it? Well, we invest the money into a lot of equipment. I'm taking 10 camera systems with me, these unmanned cameras, several of our weather stations, these connected kestrels as I call them. Bottom line is, I'm going to give you some live coverage that you just won't get anywhere else online. There's nothing else like it. That interactive tracking map right here, that's where this goes. You can go on the map and you can activate the cameras. Some of these are permanent. For example, here's Rodanthe, North Carolina. We have permanent cameras set up. A lot of these people are our patrons. There's one out in Bermuda, just as an example. And so as Henri closes in, sometimes I got to wait for it to populate and I have to ad lib. Nice shot there. Good day for you, Howard, in Bermuda. But as this moves up, we do have a live camera already in Baiting Hollow. I was telling you, this is one of my friends and supporters. Actually, this is the guy that told me about Patreon. Story for another day. But I will set these cameras up all along this area over the next day or so, starting tomorrow. I don't know how many. I don't know exactly where. But this is what you'll be able to do. You'll be able to go in, click on it, see the camera view. We also have this really nice dashboard of the live cams right here. Let me get my telestration to go away. I mean, come on. There's nothing else like this. Not like we do it. And the data that is built in, you'll have wind data on top of that, pressure data, tracking it like you never could before. I will post updates on Patreon, right on the website, right in the app, and you can become part of it and support it. The $1 are all sold out. That's just kind of an entry level. But it starts at $10 a month. You get all these nice benefits. You can read about it. All the way up to $25 a month or more, adding a Zoom feature where I do these Zoom conferences, and I'm going to do one tomorrow for all of our $25 level and up people. And then it goes higher from there if you want to, potentially $100 to $250. Actually, the hundreds are sold out too. People believe in this. We have over 600, almost 650 supporters on Patreon, and then somewhere about 50 or so legacy supporters dating back to when I first came up with this whole idea of live streaming video in 2005. That's a long time ago. So that's what we do. That's how you can get involved with it. Sorry, people trying to call me. It's not a subscription. It's a crowd-funded effort to study hurricanes and other big impact weather systems from the educational side. I mean, this is my job. This is what I do, so you're helping to pay me to do that. But then we put that technology to use. And let me tell you one more thing. Every single bit of it, just trying to see if there's a piece of, it's all packed. Every piece of equipment that I'm taking with me was purchased by the very people that are current patrons. And that's the truth. And that's incredible. They literally are funding this. They're sourcing it. A lot of people put their knowledge and their expertise to use as well. So let me finish. Shut up, put this online. That's how you can become a part of it. The link is in the description of today's video. I'll be traveling today up to New Brunswick, New Jersey, and then tomorrow into the Northeast, putting the camera systems up. They will all be running by Sunday, and we'll wait and see what happens along the way. Tomorrow, I'll be streaming live. That'll be both on Patreon and on YouTube. Always want to do something for the public and give back to the greater good, so we always have a public live feed that is not behind any kind of a paywall, quote unquote. That'll be available starting tomorrow. And along the way, I'll be producing video updates as well. All right? Follow on Twitter at HurricaneTrack. We're on Facebook as well. Like, subscribe, share on YouTube. You know the drill. It helps to grow what we're doing. And it is remarkable. I'm glad to have you with me. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Mark Sudduth. I'll talk to you again from somewhere in the Northeast.